What are you doing here? Can you not see I'm eating breakfast? What do you want? Speak up, I can't hear you. Do I have to? Alright. Let's talk about the new Machine Head record. Fuck you, I'm finishing my breakfast first, though. Fuck you. Fucking assholes. Can't even eat in peace. Of Kingdom and Crown is the 10th studio album from Machine Head, an American groove and heavy metal crew, and it is also the follow-up to 2018's Catharsis, an album that was hated and reviled by fans and critics alike, and even by some members of Machine Head. As Phil Demmel would later say in an appearance on the Talk To Me podcast, "Fuck, I wish I could take my riffs back. No, that isn't what we want them used for." So I think in that sense, it just became a Robb Flynn solo project, and that isn't what I signed up for. And the last few years were basically collecting a paycheck. Honestly though, as rancid and as rotten as Catharsis was, it's not as if Machine Head already had a fresh, vibrant, bountiful, all-you-can-eat buffet of metal awesomeness within their discography. I mean, you know, some of the early records have plenty of tasty jams on them, and I do like The Blackening and Unto the Locust, but like, then there's the Burning Red, Supercharger, the aforementioned Catharsis. Like, for every really good album, there's also a really bad album, and there's also a lot of stuff in the middle that I frankly just don't give a fuck about one way or the other. They're incredibly unremarkable and incredibly forgettable. As such, I went into Of Kingdom and Crown with very few expectations, all of them low, just hoping that it would be better than Catharsis. And good news, it is. Bad news, it's still not really great. I mean, I'm probably gonna be in the minority on this because I've already seen some pretty glowing reviews from like Metal Injection, Blabbermouth, Louder Sound, A&P Reacts, and if you love the record, great, good for you, but, yeah, I don't. For one, the record is just, like, really fucking cringe on so many levels. Like, it has a really melodramatic and slightly convoluted concept and storyline based on the popular anime series Attack on Titan. A lot of the hooks and melodies and choruses are constructed by Machine Head repeating really dumb, edgy phrases constantly throughout the record. This is fucking war. No gods, no masters. Like a lot of just obvious lyrical platitudes and metaphors that you've heard in hundreds of other metal songs hundreds of other times. The kind of stuff you would find plastered on the back of some Hot Topic band merch. Thankfully, the record is not as politically charged or as motivated as Catharsis, but there are a few weird moments here and there where Robb Flynn's beliefs get the better of him. Like, I consider myself a pretty left-leaning person, but even I couldn't help but roll my eyes at him grunting out white privilege in the track Kill Thy Enemies. Plus, while not really related to the actual quality of the music, I just find it really fucking silly how Robb Flynn decided to use all this stylized text with, like, the lines running through the O's for all of these song titles. It just bleeds pure fucking teenage edgelord energy. As far as the songs themselves are concerned, we do have a few legitimate ragers and bangers, to be entirely fair. For instance, I really liked Choke on the Ashes of Your Hate, a surprisingly very intense and aggressive kind of thrash metal bruiser. There's some really crunchy dynamic riffery here from Robb as well as from Vogue of Decapitated fame, who performs across this entire album and is probably one of the best things about it. There is this kind of angstier, moodier section with some whispered and growling vocals that kind of turns into a pretty standard kind of nu metal breakdown, but honestly it still fits everything quite nicely. Coupled with some wailing guitars, I find myself reminded of like late 90s, early 2000s Slayer. Meanwhile, tracks like Unhallowed and Arrows Inwards from the Sky borrow some melodic metalcore influence from Howard Jones era Killswitch Engage and Trivium. There are a lot of bellowing vocals, a lot of moody choruses and hooks, a lot of like classic heavy metal twin guitar riffery and metalcore style breakdowns. Though it is ultimately a somewhat bloated and overdramatic track, I do also find myself mostly enjoying the opening cut Slaughter the Martyr. It does a good job, warts and all, of creating some atmosphere, at making this feel really grand and important and cinematic, and it also unpacks loads of like really tight, awesome thrash metal riffery and mayhem on you. But from here on, this album is at best confused and at worst just plain stupid. Become the Firestorm, for instance, kind of tries to find this sweet chocolatey center between like the more melodic influences and the more brutal influences on this record. Like, it has an opening that harkens to like some really intense, ripping black and death metal, and it's got lots of thrash metal riffery all throughout, lots of guitar pyrotechnics, a very like bold kind of melodic metalcore chorus. Very cool and interesting in theory, but in execution, the whole thing just feels really sloppy, messy, incohesive. The chorus in particular has easily some of the worst vocals on the record. My Hands Are Empty isn't really doing a lot for me either. It's a very, like, obvious and slightly pretentious attempt at making, like, a hard rock, arena rock anthem, but in the style of Machine Head. The repeated usage of "whoa" style gang vocals and the repeated usage of the phrase "my hands are empty" throughout the track I found to be very corny, very annoying. There is this kind of rabid little groove metal rhythm buried underneath all of this that I kinda dig, wouldn't be out of place on like a classic Pantera record, but unfortunately this sweet little kernel of corn is not enough to convince me that I didn't just sift through somebody's shit. Because I did. There's also interluding songs like Overdose and Terminus, which aren't terrible, but they do kind of interrupt what little flow this album has to begin with. So yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't hate it. I don't think it's like the worst album of the year. I think ultimately it's well produced, and I think everyone does their best. Like, you know, Vogue, Naveen Koperweiss, these guys, extremely talented people. They're doing the best they can with the material they've been given, but the material they've been given is just not consistently good. I'm feeling a 2 out of 5 on this, leaning towards a 2.5 out of 5. It's better than Catharsis, but that's not exactly a massive or difficult accomplishment to make. I mean, I could probably scream nonsense and jibber-jabber into your ear, and that would probably be better than Catharsis, so yeah. I wouldn't mind revisiting some of the thrashier bits and pieces of this record, but, like, that's about it. I've no desire to return to this thing. I've no desire to continue dissecting and analyzing its concept or its production or anything like that. Respect for trying to do something a little bit more ambitious conceptually, I suppose, and I respect Robb and his overall passion for Machine Head and for heavy metal, but, like, yeah, 2 out of 5. It's not good. It's pretty poor, if you ask me. Pretty piss poor. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.